Welcome to episode number 3 of the Rock On Podcast. I am your host, Enrique Nunez. Today is a very special day, as many of you may or may not know. Metallica is my favorite band. I do sport a tattoo on my right hand, between right where the index and the thumb joint. Just it's an M, just like James Hetfield's. Mine is a 81, so I do sport a Metallica's M from the logo. I wanted to pay homage to the band that has influenced me infinitely, or the most influential band in my life. And of course, James Hetfield being my favorite frontman. As a musician, as an artist, you definitely just have to try different things and grow and experiment, and it's just life. At work, with your family, with your friends, there will be a lot of hits and a lot of misses, and I think I appreciate that they have not shied away from trying different things. So today's special quick episode is 40th anniversary of the Kill 'Em All album. We are going to give a very big round of applause and warm welcome to Mr. James Hetfield.
Hello, Enrique.
Hey, James. Thank you for joining me. You are my ultimate guitar and frontman hero. I actually have met you. I have a really cool story that I put a bit of insight and wisdom about coming up with this concept of the Kill 'Em All album.
This is a cool podcast you've got here. Thank you for having me. Full disclosure, this is an AI-generated clone voice, so we can simulate like James Hetfield is interviewing Enrique.
Yes, that's correct. Using AI to emulate James's voice. I met the rest of the band members at some point, except Kirk, the Wah Master. Anyway, so thank you for tuning today's episode, and James, let's get this ball rolling. Are you good with that?
Because we are celebrating the 40th anniversary of our album Kill 'Em All. Are you ready?
I am.
Okay,
so
here
ready.
we go.
Yep, let's do it. Give me a few questions, and then I'll tell you what I know, and then we'll go from there.
What was the album's original name, and who came up with it?
According to Metal Injection, the album was originally going to be called Metal Up Your Ass. Originally. Now, we all know that didn't fly, so they had to change the name. The artwork also featured some, what was it, like a hand sticking out of the toilet, right? Holding like a dagger, like a knife. And I believe the band's label, Megaforce Records, did persuade or had to convince the band that the name and especially the graphics were not going to be well accepted amongst the distributors or the labels. So, and I believe they were refusing to carry such album if plans were going, if the name would stay in the artwork. So they had to come up with a new name and a new artwork. I don't think it's that much different from the toilet one, but I mean, you be the judge. The design of the album eventually went on from being the toilet and the hand coming out of it with a dagger, and it was called Metal Up Your Ass, right? Eventually it had to be changed to the name Kill 'Em All. It is credited to Cliff, and let me read up here. According to Metal Injection again, I believe Cliff Burton came up with the title Kill 'Em All. The title came to the Metallica bassist after being upset with timid record distributors and saying, you know what, fuck those fuckers, man. Those fucking record outlet people, we should just kill them all. And that is how it came to be. That's how the album got its name, right?
It was originally intended to be titled Metal Up Your Ass, with cover art featuring a hand clutching a dagger emerging from a toilet bowl. Zilla convinced the band to change the name because distributors feared that releasing an album with such an offensive title and artwork would diminish its chances of commercial success.
I actually own a shirt by what's it called? Once Tees at that's Instagram at Once Tees, like TWES, like from T-shirts. It's a Mandalorian crossover with Metallica, so I'll post pictures so you get the better idea. And I was supposed to wear that shirt today, and it was just so hot that it's a black shirt. It's the print is super large in front of on my chest, and I just couldn't do it. Happy 40th anniversary still, kill 'em all. How about we go with the next question, James?
Where was the album recorded?
I believe the album was recorded. It says per Revolver magazine. Let's go right here and read it. The album was recorded in a haunted mansion. Did you guys know that? The album is recorded in a haunted mansion. Kill 'Em All was recorded at Music America, a low-budget recording studio located in a large old house in Rochester, New York. Though the ballroom on the mansion's second floor was acoustically excellent, the band recorded their drums and guitar amps up there for an extra ambience. It also contained some decidedly disconcerting supernatural energy. The actual studio was in the basement of this huge old colonial type of clubhouse, Lost Ulrich told Metal Hammer in 2008. On the second floor, there was a huge ballroom, perfect for getting a good drum sound. The problem was the place was fucking haunted. I had to have someone else up there the whole time I was recording. My cymbals would start spinning for no reason. Shit like that. It was scary. Oh man. Imagine recording an album. You recorded the most metal one of the most iconic metal albums, and I mean, I think this is the first time I'm finding about this. The spinning. It says I had to have someone else up there the whole time I was recording. My cymbals would start spinning for no reason. Shit like that. It was scary. That is quite a story coming from Lars Ulrich experience. That is definitely something new to me. I recently just over this past weekend I went to the Queen Mary, and actually I have a story about that. I have a friend. His name is Victor. He now lives in Arizona, but about 15 years ago, and I believe he said that he was delivering. It was a delivery of bread and product from the company to the Queen Mary. So story goes, as he told me, that I think it was past midnight, and that's delivery time, 2, 3, 4 in the morning, when certain people get their day going and get ready for deliveries and such. So he had to take a delivery to the Queen Mary. He said hello to the security guard, made his way through the halls, all the way to the kitchen. And he says that he just heard people chatting and some sort of construction sounds. So once he reached the kitchen, he asked the people at the kitchen, the cooks, what was it that the Queen Mary was being worked on. And they just looked at him and said, no, there's no one else here today, just the security guard at the front and us here getting the work done in the kitchen. As you can imagine, my friend, who had never experienced anything alike, he says that he just did not look forward as he stepped out, as he left the Queen Mary. He just pushed the cart and looked at his feet and did not want to look what was in front of him or to the side or to his side or not even behind him. That was his experience. So I can understand how Lars might have been a little bit freaked out, right, James? Yep, that must have been really, really bad. Let's do a couple more. How about that?
How many takes did it take for Cliff Burton to pull off the track anesthesia, pulling teeth?
So, according to Revolver magazine, it says that Cliff Burton recorded Anesthesia Pulling Teeth by himself in one take. If y'all remember, that's that traditional, that very enigmatic, or that signature sound of Cliff Burton's bass playing. It says Cliff Burton's epic Kill 'Em All showpiece opens with the words spoken by engineer Chris Bubix. Bass solo, take one, as we all know.
Bass solo, take one.
And indeed, Anesthesia Pulling Teeth was recorded by Burton in just a single first playthrough, and only after he kicked everyone else out of the room. I remember him recording his bass solo separately from anyone or anything. Kirk Hammett recalled to Metal Hammer, he was upstairs in this big empty room, standing there alone, just him and his bass amp. I watched him play while they were getting his sound right downstairs in the control room. After 15 or 20 minutes, he got the sound right, and then he looked at me and said, "Get away from me, man. I'm about to do this." And then he took a hit of a joint. He took a hit off a joint, bent over, and drank a beer. And I hightailed it out of there. That's pretty amazing. One take, and we all know that how the song starts, right? The bass solo, take one. All right, give me another one.
What inspired the artwork of the album cover?
The album artwork, again, according to Revolver magazine, Kill 'Em All's final cover art is inspired by the hammer Cliff Burton took with him everywhere. Can you imagine carrying a who carries a hammer everywhere? It reads, John Zazula had enlisted photographer Gary L. Hurd to do the front cover of the album as well as the band portrait on the back. And Metallica informed Hurd of their new title as soon as they arrived at his studio. That's when Cliff Burton mentioned something about wanting there to be a bloody hammer on the cover. Kirk Hammett told journalist John Uhensky, I'm sorry if I butcher your name, in 2008. But then Cliff Burton carried the hammer with him everywhere he went. He always had a hammer in his luggage, and he would take it out occasionally and start destroying things. Speaking to Carrying Radio in 2023, James Hetfield remembered of Burton. He loved fishing and hammers. He would take his little pocket fisherman on tour and find any little lake. It says also, and he carried the hammer in his suitcase. I was like, "What are you doing with that?" He was like, "I don't know, just in case you need a hammer." He was quite a character. Very, very himself. He was unapologetically Cliff.
What wrestler used the song Seek and Destroy as an entrance song?
As part of the promotion for the WCW wrestling theme movie, Ready to Rumble, starring David Arquette, WCW licensed the ripped track and used it as the entrance theme for their most iconic wrestler, Sting, with additional thunder sounds effects added in. And we are talking about Seek and Destroy. I recently checked out this video. Really cool. If you have a chance to find it, if I get a chance, I'll try to add the link in the episode description. And let's see.
Kill 'Em All is the debut studio album by American heavy metal band Metallica, released on July 25, 1983, through the independent label Megaforce Records in Los Angeles. They recorded several demos to gain attention from club owners and eventually relocated to San Francisco to secure the services of bassist Cliff Burton. The group's No Life Till Leather demo tape in 1982 was noticed by Megaforce label head John Zazula, who signed them and provided a budget of $15,000 for recording.
$15,000 doesn't sound like a lot these days. You can really not do much with $15,000, but we're talking about 40 years ago. And it took the faith and the trust of many people the Zazula family, Megaforce Records founders. Person I like to read and hear the stories from Maria Ferrero, metalhead extraordinaire. Everyone knows Maria, Metal Maria. And she has a lot of cool stories about the early Metallica days. I personally have hung out and shared thoughts with Lloyd Grant. A lot of people, of course, may or may not remember him and the 30th anniversary video. It is the unofficial Metallica member, like Ron McGovney, and Dave Mustaine was an official member. Obviously before he got kicked out of the band. Et cetera, et cetera. But I recently was at the Ultimate Jam Night's Metallica night. It is impressive that after 40 years, these 60-year-old musicians are still putting out quality music and have to compete with a lot of younger bands. Of course, Stranger Things sort of brought in a new generation of listeners. A lot of fans are gatekeeping their music. But it's I think it's good. Other new generations are finding about these bands. Now that I'm older, I appreciate a lot more bands than in my early days. In my early days, it was just all about, I had to choose at some point between Metallica and Guns N' Roses. So that was my crossroads at some point. At the time, of course, White Zombie, Pantera, all these bands that in the 90s started shaping my musical taste, experimenting and witnessing all these bands that have given us great music. Well, thank you, AI-generated James Hetfield, for your help in this special edition celebratory episode of Kill 'Em All. I'm just going to read a few of the really cool things I found online about Kill 'Em All. It says, number one, and this is off Metal Injection. The album was originally going to be called Metal Up Your Ass, which we already talked about. Number two, Cliff Burton came up with the title Kill 'Em All, which we already talked about. Number three, Dave Mustaine was kicked out a month before recording. A lot of us, we remember that. We know that. I believe one of my favorite parts in Metallica history between Dave and Metallica is during the Some Kind of Monster therapy sessions. There's a scene, there's a part where they're all together. It was James, Lars, Kirk, and Dave Mustaine with their therapist. I forgot his name. And he says, I had to deal with this for over, I think at the time was 20-something years, 30 years, 20-something years. And he says, you know what it's like to be the guy that was kicked out of Metallica. People just see you on the street and they taunt you and they go Metallica, just to taunt him. So I'm really happy they've come to a peaceful solution to their differences. I believe Dave still gets royalties from Kill 'Em All. He went on to be a very successful musician on his own merit. Let's see what else. One more. Kirk Hammett had a month to rework Mustaine's solos. Now, who do you like best, Mustaine's solos or Kirk Hammett's solos? And the words of Kirk Hammett quoting from Metal Injection website, it says, I had a week to learn the songs. At the end of that week, I flew out and I had a week to rehearse with them. And then we started playing shows. Every show just kept on getting better. When it came time to go into the studio, John Z, our manager, said, you have to play Dave's solos. I said, I don't really want to. Then why don't you take the opening to every solo so that people think that they're Dave solos and then you can just go somewhere else with them, he said. As a 20-year-old kid, put in a position like that, you don't want to rock the boat too much, especially being the new kid in the room. So I said, sure, that's exactly what I did. I took the first 4 bars of most of the solos and changed them. When I changed them, it was always for the better and everyone liked it. On the Kill 'Em All album. Number 5, some songs were carryovers from previous bands. Hit the Lights, the first official Metallica song, which initially appeared in the iconic Metal Massacre compilation, was actually a carryover from James Hetfield's first band, Leather Charm. The Mechanics, which became the Four Horsemen, was originally written by Mustaine for his previous band Panic. Hit the Lights. That's what we were talking about with about Lloyd Grant. Shout out to my buddy Lloyd. And thank you for being such a cool cat and still, jamming to some Metallica whenever there's a chance. Number 6, Sick and Destroy was once used as a wrestling entrance theme. We read about that. Number 7, Metallica has sold over 3 million Kill 'Em All records to date. This is one of my favorite ones. Number 8, Metallica has closed most shows with Seek and Destroy since 2003. Growing up listening to the Black Album and being my first big influence in metal music, hard rock, heavy metal, etc., whatever you want to call it, I was very heavily influenced by the Black Album. Enter Sandman's iconic, but I think I always lean more towards Sad But True, Even Through the Never, etc. But Seek and Destroy has, I want to say, it's my very, very favorite Metallica song. Beats from Metal Injection. If you've gone to a Metallica show in the last decade, chances are swell that the final song of the night would be Seek and Destroy, and will most likely involve balloons. The band started this tradition on the 20th anniversary of the album's release. That's really cool. Actually, I have a couple balloons from, those black balloons with, I think they were touring with Godsmack. No, that was a different tour. I'm talking about maybe 10 years, 12 years ago. I'm not really sure. I have a couple of those balloons. Number 9, the original band got back together to perform Metal Militia at Metallica's 30th anniversary shows. Who doesn't remember that? Remember, it was the 30th anniversary show with Ron McGovney was there, Lloyd Grant, Mustaine. They all joined. Rob Trujillo, James, and Kirk and Lars, and I believe Jason was there too, right? If I'm not mistaken. There were limited editions of Kill 'Em All shoes, etc. Those were some cool, fun facts about that. And I believe I wanted to read one more. You can let me find it. It says, the album's original mix isn't heavy enough. This is from Revolver magazine. Though Metallica already had a reputation for being a formidable concert act, they were still relatively inexperienced with studio recording, and we have really used a producer who knew how to translate the fire and fury of their live sound to tape. Unfortunately, their producer was Music America's studio owner, Paul Curcio, a music biz veteran best known for working with the Doobie Brothers and Santana, who thought James Hetfield's brutally overdriven guitar tones sounded way too harsh. Curcio, also according to John Zazula, who was credited as the album's executive producer, originally mixed the record with Hetfield's rhythm guitars barely audible and Hammett's guitar solos up much higher than the band wanted. Curcio had engineered Santana's earlier albums. Zazula recalled in the Martin Popov's Metallica, The Complete Illustrated History, and he was just mixing Kirk like Carlos Santana. I get there at the end of the album after being broke from finalizing the recording, and James is all depressed. And Lars has to speak to me, and he says, Johnny, this isn't heavy enough. So we went in and had James redo all the rhythms with the big chunky sound he's famous for. Oh, man. That is, the album's original mix isn't heavy enough. I believe that's maybe not as bad as what happened to And Justice for All, correct? Poor Jason used it. Last one. I want to read one last one before we sign off. It says, number 7, again, from Revolver magazine. The band is locked out of the mixing session for the album. But even after James Hetfield was allowed to beef up his guitar parts, Paul Curcio and engineer Chris Bobix chose to handle the final mixes themselves. And though John Zazula relayed the band's instructions, Curcio and Bobix took some sonic liberties that still rankled Metallica decades later. When everything was recorded, the engineer and the producer decided that they wanted to mix the album themselves. Then, pretty much, they locked us out of the studio while they were mixing it. Kirk Hammett recalled to Music Radar in 2008. They added all these weird delays and reverb and all these things that we wouldn't have done. That's why there's such a drastic sonic difference between Kill 'Em All and Ride the Lightning. There are also things that we would have like to have fixed or re-recorded, but we couldn't because we just basically ran out of time. Well, those are some fun facts about Kill 'Em All. I would like to say I have no other, or I couldn't think of a better way to celebrate this 40th anniversary than talking about my favorite band, the album that contains, that houses my favorite Metallica song, which is Seek and Destroy, such an iconic song. And like I said, I'm looking forward to seeing them at SoFi Stadium next month at the end of August. If you are going to the Metallica concert, please let me know. I may be doing some interviews outside of SoFi Stadium, which is a double whammy for me because I'm seeing my favorite band at my other happy place, which is SoFi Stadium, home of Super Bowl 56 champions, the LA Rams. What can I say? It's going to be such a treat. I look forward to taking my sisters, my mom, my daughter, her first Metallica concert, and my wife too. Well, this is all for today. Thank you for joining me on this third episode of the Rock On Podcast. I believe you may have had a chance to look up some of these facts. If not, I suggest, give it a shot. This is Enrique again from the Rock On Podcast, celebrating Metallica's Kill 'Em All 40th anniversary. It is still 11:55 p.m. We're still on time to say happy 40th, Kill 'Em All. Thank you for giving us some of the most popular songs in metal, especially for Metallica fans. It's such an iconic album, such an iconic cover, and I hope you learned a fact or two. I sure did. And until we meet again, this is Enrique with the Rock On Podcast, celebrating 40th anniversary of Kill 'Em All album by Metallica. If you haven't yet, please, I invite you to follow and subscribe so you can be notified when I release a new episode. On Instagram, you can follow me as ROQP as in Peter IX, ROQPIX, Rockin' Pics. You can also find my webpage online, which is rockinpics.com. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all these social media pages, they are under Rockin' Pics. We'll see you soon, and stay tuned for the future episodes. This is Enrique. Rock on.